everyone! Welcome back to another episode of the Genshin Impact Chronicle. I'm super excited for today's episode because we are talking about one of my favorite characters in Genshin, Diluc Ragnvindr. I still remember back when I first started playing Genshin, my sister texted me one evening and excitedly told me that there was a cute redhead that showed up. Now, if you don't know, I also have red hair, though not quite as bright as Diluc's, and I always gravitate towards characters who also have red hair. I was super excited to say the least. Diluc quickly grew to become my favorite character in the game, and now, 3 years later, I still use him as my main to this day. But part of the reason why I liked him so much was his complicated history. So let's dive right in, shall we? We don't have too much information about Diluc's childhood, but we can assume that it was a happy one. He was the only child of Crepus, and we don't know what happened to his mother. Nothing is mentioned about her, which I think is very mysterious. But at some point when Diluc was young, he obtained his vision. His character stories don't say when exactly this was, but we do know that he at least had it when he became the cavalry captain. And we'll go into this later, but also of importance in Diluc's childhood was the addition of Kaya to the Ragnvindr family. Don't worry, we'll get more into Kaya later. He's going to have his own episode, so that's all I'll say on him for now. But Kaya and Diluc did become really close as they grew up. Diluc's apparent success and happiness didn't last long, unfortunately. He and his father were on their way back to the winery when they were attacked by a ferocious monster. This monster was, in fact, Ursa the Drake. Name sound familiar? It should. We talked about Ursa the Drake in episode 2, which was the episode about old Mondstadt and Vanessa. Well, this old dragon is back. Diluc tried his best to push back the dragon, but he ultimately was not strong enough, even with his vision. To his surprise, though, Crepus pulled out an item, a delusion, and was successful in defeating the dragon with its strange power. Diluc didn't really have time to celebrate, though. Whether the delusion backfired, killing Crepus, or whether it backfired and left him in so much agony that Diluc had to put him out of his misery, we don't know. The manga and in-game character stories kind of contradict each other. Regardless, Crepus lost his life that night. Kaya and some other knights came rushing to help, but by then, it was too late. Diluc did his duty and reported the incident to Inspector Erock, but the inspector gave Diluc a much different answer than what he was expecting. He was basically told to cover up the incident. Why? To make the knights look good, essentially. He didn't want word coming out that a mere businessman defeated a mighty dragon, as that would take away the knight's credibility. Now, we later find out that Inspector Erock was a traitor, which is most likely why he responded the way he did. But this left Diluc in a fury. His father sacrificed himself, and Diluc is just supposed to, cover it up? So right then and there, he resigned from the knights and even discarded his vision and left in a huff, determined to find out what the item was his father had and how he got it. Diluc certainly had some determination. He was on the road for 3 to 4 years, searching for answers. He did make some progress. He discovered that the item his father had was a delusion, and that the Fatui were behind them. This led to Diluc thoroughly investigating the Fatui, destroying some of their strongholds along the way. This made the Fatui take notice, though, especially the 11 Harbingers. They even were almost successful in removing Diluc from the picture altogether. but a strange individual from the north saved him. This mysterious person ran an underground network. Being right up Diluc's alley, he readily joined and quickly rose in their ranks. We really don't know much else about Diluc's time away from Mondstadt and within the underground organization, but he eventually returned to Mondstadt, got his vision back, and resumed running Dawn Winery. At some point after his return to Mondstadt, he took on the mantle of the Dark Knight Hero. Mind you, he did not come up with that name himself, and was dedicated to purging evil from Mondstadt's borders. Normally working alone and at night, he does occasionally work with us travelers to accomplish certain missions. Now he just needs to stay away from Donna, who has a huge crush on both Diluc and the Dark Knight Hero. And now for one of the biggest mysteries in Diluc's history for our Theories of Teyvat section, the delusion that Crepus had. First, how did Crepus obtain a delusion, and why? Did he get it directly from the Perdue? He clearly knew what he had and how to use it, as he was able to use it to defeat the dragon. As for why he had it, well, he clearly intended for Diluc to use it at some point. In the manga, as Diluc and Crepus are heading back home, Crepus is bemoaning the fact that he never was as successful as Diluc, such as getting into the Knights of Livonius or obtaining a vision. Diluc tries to console his father, saying that he helps Mondstadt in his own way, to which Crepus says, seemingly to himself, that Diluc won't be needing this anymore, referring to the delusion sitting in a box that he is holding. So he maybe thought that Diluc was going to turn out just like him and got a delusion for that reason? He didn't want his son to end up like him and wanted to help him. But the question remains. He clearly saw all of Diluc's achievements up until that point. Why was he still holding on to it? Or maybe Crepus got the delusion for himself and then thought he would pass it along to Diluc. But none of those scenarios explain, one, how he got it, or two, how he learned to use it. The Perdue obviously had something to do with supplying the delusion, but whether it was direct contact or through a third party, we can't be sure. As for learning how to use it, who knows? Maybe he figured it out himself. Maybe he had a member of the Perdue teach him. But I really hope this gets explored in future story arcs. I also wonder who this mysterious person in the north is. Diluc clearly still keeps in touch with him and his underground network, as he has referenced having many avenues of getting information before. But what is this person's reason for having this underground network? Is it to monitor the Perdue and the Harbingers? Is it to monitor the gods? Or something else? Maybe Celestia? Again, I really hope this gets explored in future story arcs. Thank you all again for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. Diluc is one of my favorite characters, so it was so fun getting to put this episode together. I really want to hear all of your theories about him, so please feel free to leave a comment. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you again in another episode.